So is Roger Federer still in that funk he was yesterday in the match against bearded Benoit Paire? Well, the quarterfinal today against Matthew Ebden suggests an answer, and I want to break down that match for you. I also want to preview the semifinal tomorrow between Federer and Kudla, as well as the semifinal between Bautista Agut and Coric. Finally, I want to talk a bit about the developments over at Queen's Club. I think we have a very exciting final coming down the pike over there, and I want to discuss that a little bit. Thank you for your viewership. Subscribe to the channel. Give the video a thumbs up. This is Tennis Talk Daily. The word on the street about the 30-year-old Australian Matthew Ebden prior to the quarterfinal today against Federer was that he's playing the best tennis of his career. Earlier this month at the Halle Open in the Netherlands, Ebden staged a major upset of the defending champion Jill Muller, beating Muller in straight sets and proceeding to the semifinal where he ultimately fell to Jeremy Chardy. He beat Sam Querrey earlier this year in Acapulco and John Isner at the Australian Open. At Halle, he was able to outdo the 6th seed Philippe Kohlschreiber 4-6, 6-1, 6-2 very decisively in those final two sets. As for Roger Federer, we were hoping to see signs of life from him after that very strange match against Benoit Paire. In the first set, Federer looked very sharp. He lost only 4 points on his serve during the first set. It started off a little shaky in the first game with Ebden serving. Federer netted a backhand just like he was doing against Paire, and then a couple of mishits enabled Ebden to hold at love. But then Federer came back and held his own serve at love with some strong serving and a beautiful pick out of the backhand corner to pass Ebden. Early in the first set, Ebden seemed to be struggling with his ground strokes and was having a hard time getting a racket on Federer's kick serves. In the 7th game at 3-3, Federer was able to get a break point, but a backhand passing shot that sailed out prevented him from converting. Ebden generally found better rhythm from the baseline as the first set proceeded, but Federer looked much better going into the breaker with a couple of love service games under his belt. In the breaker, Federer got a midi break fairly early with a gorgeous backhand passing shot. An ace brought it to 4-2, and Ebden tried to break Federer's rhythm by going to the ball boy and asking for a towel. Ebden could sense that the Fed Express was starting to roll, but he had no luck in stopping the mighty Federer. In the second set, Federer immediately started applying pressure to Ebden's serve, but Ebden squeezed out the hold. At 1-1 with Federer serving, however, some Federer errors as well as an angled backhand at the net that skipped off the net cord and sailed out gave Ebden an early break, and he went up 2-1. But Federer immediately broke back. Each player then held their serves, and at 3-3 with Federer serving, an Ebden passing shot and some Federer errors gave Ebden another break point, which Federer saved with a 1-2 punch. Some solid baselining from Ebden and some very effective defensive lobs against Federer's attacks, which Federer uncharacteristically failed to put away by overheads, resulted in another break. But at 5-4 with Ebden serving, some driving Federer backhand returns gave him 2 break points, the first of which he converted. Here the Fed Express really started to roll. This was the diamond. Next, Federer held at love in a 65-second service game, which brought it to 5-6. Ebden then missed a few volleys, and a Federer cross-court return gave him a match point, which he won when Ebden's forehand sailed just out. It was a straight set win. I thought on balance that Federer performed better than he performed yesterday. It is a bit problematic that he dropped 2 service games to Ebden, but on the other hand, he delivered at all the right times. On the whole, I thought Federer improved. There are signs of life, and I think it can only get better from here. Next up for Federer is the virtual unknown Denis Kudla, who has no titles and no finals under his belt. Kudla is the world number 109 at this point. Federer is apparently his idol, and he likes hard courts the best, but he's been playing quite well on the turf at Halle. He came through Tsitsipas, who was playing fairly well, in straight sets, and then came through Sujita in straight sets. All in all, he has not dropped a set in this tournament. In terms of significant matches during the course of his career, he did reach the 4th round at Wimbledon in 2015, where he fell to Marin Cilic, but not before taking a set off Cilic. He had beaten Pablo Cuevas in the 1st round. He took Dominic Thiem to 5 sets at the 2015 Australian Open. He beat Verdasco in Houston this year and Steve Johnson at the Australian Open. Kudla is not a particularly strong server. He averages about 5 or 6 aces per match, but he's consistent. He moves well, which is a little strange because he's kind of plump. And all in all, he's looked very solid this week. Federer should not have a problem against Denis Kudla, folks, but anything can happen. Federer has been having little hiccups lately, so it could be an interesting match, but I am looking for a clean, straight set victory. I'm looking for evidence that Roger is improving even more from his match today. The other semifinal at Halle will pit Bautista Agut, who prevailed over Khachanov today, against Coric, who prevailed over Seppi today in straight sets. Bautista Agut leads Coric in the head-to-head 4-2, but Coric looks strong. His fancy footwork is redounding to his benefit on the turf, and I pick Coric to be in this final. I think Federer can edge Coric. He did struggle with Coric a bit in their only meeting at Indian Wells earlier this year, where Coric was just on fire, but he did prevail in that match. So I predict a Federer victory at Halle, but it could be a tight match with Coric, and Federer will have to raise his game relative to what he was displaying today to put Coric away. Over at Queen's Club, Cilic prevailed over Sam Querrey 7-6, 6-2. Nick Kyrgios prevailed over Feliciano Lopez in a fairly close match, 7-6, 7-6. Therefore, Cilic will meet Kyrgios in one of the semifinals. Jeremy Chardy prevailed over Francis Tiafoe 6-4, 6-4. In the other quarterfinal, Chardy will meet Djokovic, who did a job on Mannarino today after struggling in the first set, being down a break, but then he came back and dealt out a breadstick at the end. We'll have to see what Cilic can do with Kyrgios. That could be a very interesting match, but on balance, Kyrgios looks to be on fire, folks, and so does Djokovic. So it looks very likely that we'll see a Djokovic versus Kyrgios final at Queen's Club, and that will be exciting. Like I said yesterday, if Djokovic wins Queen's Club, that is going to mix things up quite a bit. It will suggest that Djokovic is back. And Djokovic has done jobs on Federer before at Wimbledon and could be a real challenger this year. Exciting times, exciting stuff to come. I will be back with more commentary this weekend. I hope everyone is doing splendidly. Subscribe to the channel, give the video a thumbs up. Signing off from Boston.